And you want to ask you, you've covered extensively gay pride, which has been going on for the last month in the USA. We've been horrified at some of the images here. You've got men walking naked in front of children. You've got people saying we're coming for your children, all sorts of crazy things. What's the reaction like in the US? And is there the perception that this is getting more and more obscene? And what's driving that?
I think it is getting more obscene, and what makes me actually, well, obviously disturbed, but sad as a gay man about this is that when I speak to older gay and lesbians who have in their living memories remember what discrimination was like in mainstream society, now to see so-called LGBTQ activists lean into really horrific stereotypes about gay people, such as that we target children, that we're intentionally grooming them, using this as part of the chants or as part of the messaging. I don't know why you would be doing that if you're spitting on the legacy of gay men and women who before us worked so hard to show society that we are equals and deserving of that equality under the law. It's undermining, I think, mainstream support for people like me actually do these type of acts.
Is there a pushback within the gay community?
There is, but if you're like me who speaks out, you're treated as some type of heretic that needs to be expunged. This is the problem with having representatives, so-called representatives, speak on your behalf, because in my country, in your country, all the legacy so-called LGBT organizations have essentially abandoned the G and the L to really embrace the trans and the queer political ideology.
Andy, we're just going to play that one clip of them, of activists yelling out, "We're coming for your children." Just have a listen to this. So I'm so glad to hear you speak out as a gay person, particularly the long legacy of decades of LGB people fighting for rights for the rainbow flag, etc. That's now been replaced and taken over by that weird triangular, whatever it is, flag that flies everywhere now, including in Sydney. We need more gay people to speak up from those battles and say we have completely, because the militant transgender agenda can be deeply homophobic. And yet we're not hearing that from the gay community. And particularly this focus on children and grooming children and coming for your children and all the rest is so shocking. When are we going to get the gay community being as brave as you are and actually standing up and saying enough is enough?
I don't know what it takes, because every year, let's just say in the last 5 years that people have been paying attention to the legacy activist groups and the events they put on, it seems to be getting worse every year. And they're leaning into the criticisms of those parents and regular people who speak out and embracing that type of problem as part of the identity. And that, I mean, that's really sick, actually. Like, joking about grooming and going after children, that's not a joke.
No, and NBC tried to do some ridiculous cover story to make it sound like, oh no, there's some rich history of chanting "We're coming for your children,"
of course,
and they got absolutely fact-checked on that, because it was an absolute activist piece of nonsense. Now, you cover the far left's violence. We saw the riots, the BLM riots throughout America. You covered those beautifully. And now we're being told what's happening in France is their version of the BLM riots, because these are, and we're going to talk a little bit later in the program and show some footage about what's happening there. It's extraordinary scenes. But this is all race-based, the rioting in France. Can you just give us a little bit of a idea of what sparked this and what's happening there right now?
So my book about Antifa, the first time it was translated to another language was France. And when I went there in 2021 to talk about my book, I said that I expected France to have its George Floyd moment at some point in the near future, because many of the conditions that arise in the US for the 2020 deadly riots, there are similar conditions in France. You have ethnic minorities that are really propagandized into a grievance against the state in France. In addition to that, you have religious extremists and anarchists and Antifa and far-left extremists all really trying to use anything they can to carry out what they believe is acts of revenge against the state. And the fact that the police involved shooting death of the French Algerian youth, it was caught on video. It provided that moment. It was spread around on social media, just like the George Floyd situation in the United States. And that was the fire to, I guess, this puddle of gasoline that's already been set for years by racial grievance activists and the far left in France.
Andy, always great to chat to you. Thanks so much for coming on Outsiders again. Keep up the great work with the post-millennial there, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks so much, Andy.